अगर आप जॉब इंटरव्यू की प्रिपरेशन ले रहे हो तो ये वीडियो आपके लिए बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, क्योंकि इस वीडियो में मैं आपको बताऊंगा 10 इंटरपर्सनल स्किल्स रिलेटेड क्वेश्चन एंड आंसर जो लगभग हर किसी इंटरव्यू में एक या दो क्वेश्चन इंटरपर्सनल स्किल्स के ऊपर पूछा जाता है। तो अगर आप चाहते हो कि एक बार में आप जॉब इंटरव्यू क्लियर करो तो इंटरपर्सनल स्किल्स की जो क्वेश्चन आंसर है इसके बारे में भी आपको तैयारी लेना बहुत ज़रूरी है। तो आइए देखते हैं 10 ऐसा इंटरपर्सनल स्किल्स की क्वेश्चन और उसके सैंपल आंसर। तो पहला क्वेश्चन है, कैन यू गिव एन एग्जाम्पल ऑफ ए टाइम व्हेन यू हैड टू वर्क विथ समवन हु हैड ए डिफरेंट वर्क स्टाइल और पर्सपेक्टिव। तो इसका आंसर आप दे सकते हो, इन माई प्रीवियस रोल आई वर्क विद ए कॉलीग हु हैड ए वेरी डिफरेंट अप्रोच टू प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग. While I tend to be more analytic, they were more intuitive. We were able to find common ground and work together effectively by communicating openly and respectfully, and by being willing to learn from each other. Second question है, how do you handle conflict or disagreements with colleagues or team members? इसका आंसर है, when conflicts arise, I try to approach the situation with empathy and an open mind. I listen carefully to the other person's perspective and try to understand where they were coming from. And I also communicate clearly and respectfully and try to find a solution that works for everyone. Third question है, can you describe a time when you had to communicate complex information to someone who didn't have technical background? Answer है, in my previous role, I had to explain technical concepts to non-technical stakeholders. I used analogies and examples to help make the information more accessible, and I avoided using technical jargon. I also made sure to check in with the stakeholders to ensure they understood the information. Fourth question है, how do you build relationships with colleagues or team members? इसका आंसर है, I believe that building relationship is about being genuine, respectful and empathetic. I take the time to get to know my colleagues and team members and I show interest in their work and interests. I also make an effort to be approachable and supportive and to offer help when needed. Fifth question है, can you give an example of a time when you had to negotiate or persuade someone to see things from your perspective? इसका आंसर आप दे सकते हो, in my previous role I had to negotiate with a vendor to secure a better price for a project. I did my research and prepared a solid case for why we deserved a discount. I also built a relationship with the vendor and established trust, which helped to facilitate the negotiation. Ultimately, we were able to reach a mutually beneficial agreement. Sixth question है, how do you handle feedback or criticism from colleagues or team members? इसका आंसर आप दे सकते हो, I believe that feedback is an opportunity for growth and improvement. When I receive feedback or criticism, I listen carefully and try to understand the other person's perspective. I also ask questions to clarify their concerns and I work to implement changes or improvements as needed. Seventh question है, can you describe a time when you had to work with someone who was difficult or challenging to work with? इसका आंसर आप दे सकते हो, in my previous role I worked with a colleague who was very demanding and had high expectation. While it was challenging at times and I tried to approach the situation with empathy and understanding. I communicated openly and respectfully and I worked to find solution that meet their needs while also being realistic and achievable. Eighth question है, how do you prioritize building relationships with colleagues or team members when they have a heavy workload or tight deadlines? इसका आंसर आप दे सकते हो, I believe that building relationships is essential to success even when you have a heavy workload or tight deadlines. I prioritize building relationships by scheduling regular check-ins with colleagues or team members and by making an effort to attend the meetings and events. And I also try to be approachable and supportive and to offer help when needed. Ninth question है, can you give an example of a time when you had to facilitate a team meeting or discussion? इसका आंसर आप सिंपल दे सकते हो, इन माई प्रीवियस रोल आई फैसिलिटेटेड टीम मीटिंग टू डिस्कस अ न्यू प्रोजेक्ट, आई प्रिपेयर्ड एन एजेंडा एंड मटेरियल्स इन एडवांस and encouraged all team members to participate in the discussion. I also work to keep the discussion on track and ensure that all voices are heard. 10th question है, बहुत important है. How do you handle a situation where you have to communicate bad news or negative feedback to a colleague or team member? आंसर है, I believe that communicating bad news or negative feedback requires empathy and sensitivity. I try to approach the situation with kindness and respect, and I communicate the information clearly and directly. I also offer supportive and resources to help the colleagues or team members to move forward.